Everybody, this is the Nine Finger Chronicles podcast. I'm your host, Dan Johnson. Um, Texas. Today's guest is from Texas, Connor Little. Is it cold down there for Texas temperatures right now?
Well, there's about 4 inches of ice caked onto the sidewalk right now, so I would say it's a little cold. I think we duck hunted the last day of the season on Sunday, and wind chill was -10, I believe. So
Okay.
it's been pretty chilly. This is a once in a 5 years ice storm we'll get, so this is definitely not the normal weather we have down here, but um it's definitely made things interesting. Not being experienced on ice, I jumped out of my truck last night to help push a guy, and I was the one who needed help after because I took about 4 steps and completely busted my ass. And it was hard, dude. Like, it was like when you're playing football and, like, in junior high, and there's the kids who are, like, a lot bigger, and there's the kids who are a lot smaller,
Yeah.
and you just see some of those big kids just completely decleat some of those smaller kids, and it was, like, leg in the air, and I had this, like, period of time where I was, like, completely airborne, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, this one's gonna hurt a little bit." So, definitely, learning to respect the ice again here a little bit, so I think you're still on mute, Dan.
Yep. Sorry, I had to cough. I uh,
No, you're good.
I call those character building moments where
Oh, for
where
sure.
I was that kid. I remember I got moved up to practice with the varsity when I can't remember if I was a freshman or a sophomore. Me and one of my good buddies, we were bigger than all the other kids in our grade, and so we got moved up to just practice with them, and we got our asses destroyed to the point where I look at my freshman coach or my junior varsity coach, and I'm just like, how much of this we doing? Like, what are we here for? Because I don't want to do this. It wasn't like I didn't learn anything except how to take a backward step to soften the blow from a guy who was 50 pounds heavier than me and just crushed me every play. And so I'm like, I don't know if I like this shit
Oh,
no more.
I don't blame you. I
And that
don't blame
ice,
you.
man, it
No,
does not
speaking
move,
of
does it?
character Dude, speaking of character building moments, by the way, I need to rib you about this because you kinda owe me an apology. 'Cause,
Uh-oh.
I, I'm a podcast guy when I work out, and,
Yep.
which I know is people think I'm a psycho for that, and normally this time of year, I kinda take some time off from, like, the hunting podcast, but obviously I can't do that
Mm-hmm.
anymore for obvious reasons. So,
Yep.
I was like, "Let me just get a little plugged in here," so I plug in the Nine Finger Chronicles, and, I'm at
Mm.
the gym, and, it's push day, and I've kinda let things go over the holidays a little bit. So I'm not totally tuned into everything that's going on the podcast. I'm dying here, so when I get there, like dumbbell incline, like that is what I do to know like
Mm.
how strong are we today. And so I'm
Mm.
probably on like my second set and rep number 7 or 8, and all I hear is Dan Johnson starting to sing R&B while I am
Yep, dude.
fighting for my life at Lifetime
Yeah.
Fitness, and I am holding on to
Yep.
these dumbbells like I'm coming out of shoot number 3, and I just have to
Yep.
drop them, and I keel over, and I am dying laughing, and everyone in
Yeah.
Lifetime Fitness thinks I am an absolute insane person.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
if I'm gonna be allowed
first
back in
off,
that
first
place.
off, Connor, you're welcome. Okay. You're welcome for making you smile that day and giving you endorphins of
Oh, it
happiness.
was
And
good.
now, yes, my singing probably wasn't very good, but um, I had to prove a point, is what I'm getting at. And sometimes my
No, I
point
get it.
proving skills are
I
a
get
little
it.
unorthodox, but I got to do something. I almost have to make a hype video or a hype podcast that does the
Mm.
opposite instead of dropping it. It's like, it's just a podcast on repeat that just goes, hey, listen, it's just an episode where if you're in the gym, I just call you a pussy for like 5 minutes. And it's like, I got it, I got it. Like just hype you up instead of making you laugh.
Dude, I need that. It's funny you say that. I literally texted 2 of my buddies who, will all work out, and, they weren't gonna go to the gym and it was iced over, and I was like, "Just someone text me and tell me I'm a
Mm.
pussy." Like, I just need somebody to, like, tell me that, and I was like, "Alright, we're good, we're good." That's all I needed right there. So, there's definitely
I
a
love it.
market for that for sure.
Yeah. I look at there um there's on YouTube they have those, right? Where it's just like compilations of
Mhm.
David Goggins or, some other big bodybuilder or weightlifter
Mhm.
or Ray Lewis
Jocko.
or someone like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just like, what are you doing today? Get off your ass. It's time to work. Let's go. And it's just like basically alpha males
Yeah.
like telling beta males how weak and worthless they are, and that's how
Mhm.
you're supposed to get motivated, and so I don't know.
And
So
it's funny, I usually
I
get
got an
those
idea.
after I've already I said I always usually get those after I've already scrolled reels for 20 minutes when I wake up, and it's like,
Exa-
"Ah,
ex-
shit, I'm behind the ball here
yeah,
now."
yeah. You wasted 20 minutes, man. I
Oh.
honestly, let's talk about that for just a second because man, there was a period of time over the last month or so where I would just black out scrolling. And I literally had to have an awakening with myself where
Mhm.
I would be so deep into it. Like I have to go on to post on social media, right? I got to go and promote the podcast that I host and play that game with it. But then I would stay on there for 20, 30 minutes. And the next thing you know, after the kids are in bed, it's 11 o'clock at night and I've been scrolling for an hour. And then I'm just like realizing, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Nothing you're doing right now is helping you in any aspect of your life, right? It's actually draining your life. It's actually making parts of your life worse. And then if I somehow do it where, um, my kids are in the room or something like that and they're talking to me and I'm just fucking
Mhm.
ignoring them. So the last 2 weeks, man, I have put my phone, I pull it out to work and then I am blatantly putting it in a different room while I am working or with my kids or leaving it in my truck so that I'm not doing that shit anymore because, um, dude, the research just shows it is horrible for people to just do that. And by the way, it is the number one New Year's resolution for people this year. It's not. It even surpassed weight loss or exercising. Is to
Mhm.
spend less time on their devices. Crazy.
I I I would say I'm right there with you, and my problem too is, like, I don't go there inadvertently, it's not, like, the first thing, but I'll, like, wake up and I
Hmm.
immediately start looking at emails because I got people that are firing off emails at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, "I'm not up
Yeah.
that early." And, I'm
Yeah.
starting going through that, firing off, and then it's just, one click over to TikTok or Instagram, and then it's
Hmm.
like you said, like 20, 30 minutes later, and in the even in the mornings, it's like, "Dude, what
Hmm.
did I just, like, do with my morning here?" And that's, like, the worst thing you can do, like, if any kind of, like, health and wellness person, it's like, what's the absolute worst thing you can do in the morning? It's hop on your phone and start scrolling, it is so easy to get sucked in, and then when you
Yep.
get done, it's like this
Hmm.
weird, like, empty feeling where it's just, like, this dopamine
Yeah.
depletion where it's like you're chasing this rabbit down a hole that you're never gonna catch because 'cause you're like and I don't know
Yep.
what it is, if you're trying to, like, find that one video that's really just gonna, like, do it for you or make you laugh, and, like, if you sit here and objectively and talk on a podcast about it, you're like, "Holy shit, I sound like an idiot."
Yeah.
But when you're just
Yeah.
sitting there scrolling, it's kinda hard to, like, pull yourself out. Like, this morning, I kinda did it, and I kinda made a point as well where, I just, like, got on my phone and I checked an email, and then I scrolled, like, twice, and I was like, "Nope," threw the phone across the bed, got up. I was like, "I'm not doing this today." And
Yep.
it's hard. It's just it's your
Yeah.
brain shuts off. You, like, black out.
Yeah. 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 The I'll get into a doom scroll. They call it doom scrolling. I'll get into a doom
Mhm,
scroll, and all of a sudden it'll change my emotions. Like things that it's almost like, and I've mentioned this before, I believe, talking about how doom scrolling will, uh, the algorithm will feed you things that you support. And then it'll throw in
mhm,
something that is completely 180 from
mhm.
what your beliefs or values are. And you're like, whoa, I believe, Democrats, Republicans, like all that shit. You're like, whoa. Yeah. But this is weird. This is the true man in me talking now, is then I'll run into like, maybe it's AI created, maybe it's not, of a woman who is just almost perfect in every aspect of physical looks. And that will be my stopping point. I'll be like, nah, what? No, come on. They don't make them like that, right? And then I'll be like, this is all, I've been duped. I've been duped. And then I throw my phone into another room. And so it's, fucking social media, dude. How poison it can be, even in the hunter's level, right? Mm-hmm. It's so stupid. The hunting space, it's just so stupid.
Dude, it's funny you bring up like the AI girls. There's some older men in my life who are in their 70s and 80s who I don't think they know, like, on Instagram that people can see what you like and comment on sometimes. And I've had to be like, have a couple phone calls because, like, I'm not trying to out anybody. It's just like, hey, I'm trying to help you out here. I'm sure you don't want half the church congregation seeing that or something like that, like let's maybe just like look and enjoy it and keep scrolling. And it's like when you're funny. It's like when you're a little kid and you get caught like looking up on the family computer, like boobs. And it's like the role reversal of somebody's like triple your age, where it's like, dude, I totally know how this feels now being on the other side.
I'll tell you what, I have a daughter. Okay. I have a daughter. I love my wife, but there's one of my favorite things to do in public spaces, especially where there would be younger or attractive women there. There's one everywhere, right? It's not necessarily watching them, but watching other men break their necks looking, or like if they're with a woman, like doing something like stopping to tie their shoe to distract their own wife so they can get a look of the yoga pants that just walked by.
The old crick in the neck, like,
yeah, like, oh God, all of a sudden my back hurts. Let me stretch this out once real quick. Yeah. Dude, that's hilarious. And I can't believe how easy it is. It's like, the doom scrolling. It's like you're doom scrolling and it's 30 minutes or lost. Like the neck look, the quick boop, how natural it is for dudes. Like there's times I can't control it. I'm just like, whoop, wait a second. I'm not supposed to be doing that. Right. And so
it's just DNA.
That's dude life. That's dude
life. It's
just
hardwired.
Mm-hmm.
It means, it means all the synapses are firing.
Are fine.
I watched there's like a health and wellness doctor on some famous podcast. She goes, hey, if you're not horny, you're not healthy. That's, and I was like, you know what? Hell yeah. I like this.
Dude, I love that quote. I like that quote. I think that should be a t-shirt. I think that should be a t-shirt.
Is that going to be the next full sneak gear? Just like right across the chest? Like, and then you just have like a big old rack.
If you're not horny, you're not.
Yeah, or you just have like a buck mountain of dough.
It can say anything it wants as long as it has a deer on it. It doesn't have to relate to deer hunting at all. I'll think about that. I'll see what happens there. Okay. So this is the point of the podcast where we just hard pivot, right? We stop what we're doing and we go in a different direction. But before we do that, I got to send a huge shout out to all of the partners of the Nine Finger Chronicles. And we're going in reverse order today, right? You brought up Full Sneak Gear. It is turkey season's coming up quick, and Full Sneak Gear it was new last season, but we have a really good supply back in stock of the Gobble Gobble Boom turkey t-shirt. Go check it out at fullsneakgear.com. Next on the list is Reveal trail cameras. I like Reveal trail cameras for multiple reasons, but the ease of use setting up is probably my favorite. You download the app, You put batteries in the camera, you scan the QR code. In a matter of minutes, you have a fully functioning cellular trail camera. On top of that, there's been some huge upgrades to the platform itself, the mapping, the being able to organize pictures, some predictive deer movement stuff, the weather, all of that stuff is now on the app. And then the camera itself, the brand new Ultra, has a ton of functionality in it as well. So go check out revealtrailcameras.com. Next on the list is Code Blue Sense. Do you ever do any mock scrapes, Connor, down in Texas? You ever
I
mess around with
will.
mock scrapes?
Yeah, it's more of something I will do when I occasionally run on public land because I'm just trying to get something that's going to quickly maybe bring something in that is going to give me some kind of inventory or like what's in the area, as opposed
Right.
to playing the trail camera game where you pick a piece of property and dive in 50 yards at a time, and that's pretty time
Yeah.
consuming. And I'll do a few here and there. Um, I get a lot of action on them early in the season, and
hmm
then once kind of mid October, it kind of stops. As the bachelor groups break up, really is when I kind of slows down for me. But yes,
Yeah.
to answer your question, I will get involved with it for sure.
Perfect. And the Rope-A-Dope mock scrape kit from Code Blue Sense has been the mock scrape kit that I have used for, I want to say 4 or 5 years now, probably going on 4 years now, and have had really good success with it. Code Blue also offers real and synthetic deer urine. They offer scent elimination products, laundry detergents, body washes, things like that. So go to codebluesense.com, discount code NFC20 for 20% off. Next on the list, kind of continuously talking about turkey hunting, the Vortex red dots are badass. Whether you can simply attach them or you need to like maybe do a tap and die on your shotgun. I have a 410 and a 20 gauge that I've been using for several years now, and I have attached a red dot, a Vortex red dot to those turkey guns, and they work very well. Actually, I like a red dot on my turkey shotgun because my kids, right? My kids are using them now, and it's just a little easier for them to line up. And you tell a kid, hey, you got to line up these sights versus just put the dot on the head and squeeze the trigger, right? That's very easy, and kids can understand that. So go check out their full line of optics at vortexoptics.com. Then Wasp Archery, my friends, most of their heads are still manufactured in the United States. We have a big lineup of fixed blades and mechanicals. So go check out wasparchery.com, discount code NFC20 for 20% off. All right. Connor, tell me about hunting deer in Texas. Like, what do I need to know? Because you've invited me down, you're like, dude, why don't you come down to Texas in December? Let's hunt some deer. What do I need to know about Texas front to back on deer hunting?
First thing, I guess, a lesson I learned this year because I shot my first deer with a rifle is bring a cheater stick. That makes it a lot easier. I think I've been I mean, I'm pretty much exclusively bow hunted for the last 8 or 9 years, and kind of had a come to Jesus moment last year where I had two like once in a lifetime deer running around the place. One was probably a clean 160 10 point, at least for the county I'm in. The other was just some freak of nature Coke can mass all the way through like 12 13 point, probably up in the 170s. And I'm pretty sure both of them got shot. And I had a buddy, uh, we were talking about it because, uh, it's what's the old saying? A bad deer hunter makes a great philosopher. So I was a bad deer hunter last year, and I went hellbound chasing these deer. And he's like, dude, sometimes you just got to do it. You got everyone around you is using a rifle except you. Your odds are tanking here. So I would say it's okay. You can put it up, the bow up for a little bit, especially in the late season, because our general rifle season is probably one of the longest in the country, especially with how populated we are. It's not like we're up in Idaho where there's not a whole lot of resident hunters. It runs from the first weekend of November all the way to the first weekend of January. So um,
Mm-hmm.
it definitely puts the odds in your favor for sure. So And that's really the landscape of the majority of Texas is most people I hunt with too, is they bow hunt pretty hardcore October, maybe first week of November, depending how the season lands, and then it's time to pick up the rifle, and it
Yep.
just kind of shifts there, and then that's just kind of the culture of what Texas is as a whole. And there's a lot of places too where even where I hunt, which isn't necessarily like out in the desert or West Texas, it's kind of on that border, but it's hard to bow hunt unless you want to go uh, set up a set up a big stand because there's just not any trees that necessarily lend yourself to getting in a stand, and that's that's a lot of thing I struggle with too from a bow hunting perspective. Is like, okay, I've found the spot. There's sign. I know where the deer are coming from. And okay, there is not a tree in sight I can set up. And I get a little
Mhm.
sketched out hunting on the ground. I have not had a whole lot of luck doing it. I just feel like my scent kind of just wafers kind of around me because we have a lot of you'd be shocked when you think the wind blows in Texas. We have a lot of dead wind days where um, the wind blows out of the north, and then the next day it flips out of the south. But that morning or afternoon, and that day in between, the wind just doesn't blow, and it kind of
Mhm.
makes it a little difficult. But there's plenty of deer. There's no shortage of deer for sure. And for the most part, I would say there's a pretty good um, age structure. But it's kind of crazy where Texas is it's really 5 states within itself because, I'll hunt in East Texas in the piney woods, and that's the South. I mean, that is life behind the pine curtain over there. Those guys would have very
Mhm.
similar experiences to Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. And then you'd have all the way out in South Texas where that's I think that's where people think of when they think of Texas, where, you're out in the Senderos, there's clear cuts, you're sitting in a 15-foot tower blind and, um, shooting deer and, you hope you drop them because you don't wanna go chasing the Senderos for them because that's a little bit of a rodeo. And then even West Texas, elk, mule deer, exotics that are free range out there. I know there's plenty of free range nilgai. Um, and then up where I'm at in North Texas and kind of up into the Panhandle, where um, I would say I get into some areas where you'll get in some oaks and stuff like that, but where I hunt is almost like pretty similar to Oklahoma, Kansas versus, where some other people are. So it's
Yeah.
a totally diverse landscape that just because somebody is 3 hours away, they might be having a totally different experience than you are.
Yeah. I look at I'm going to compare Texas to Iowa.
Mhm.
And I look at the culture of hunting in Iowa is an Iowa culture because our landscape is exactly the same. So whether it's north to south or east to west, how does the culture of hunting change throughout the state of Texas based off of the different environments where these animals live?
I would say, like, start, like, East Texas, like, that is, like, traditional, what I call, like, deer camp country, if you will,
Hmm.
where, there's a lot it's a lot of people from Dallas and, Houston hunt there. That's where their leases are, and that's another thing about Texas too, let me preface that, um, is I would say not unless you're a landowner, I'm gonna exclude those people here. Um, I would say more than 90% of people who deer hunt in Texas are on a pay to play or a lease. That's pretty much the
Yeah.
only way you're gonna get access to any kind of land. It's very, very hard because um, going to the culture, obviously, you get west of 35 and, there's a lot of like ranching, and these people know what they have, and it's become a commodity. The entire industry has, and there's entire industries built around what that commodity is of deer hunting, whether it's feeders, and I know that's not different anywhere in the country, but feeders, blinds. I would say there's more of those companies in Texas almost than anywhere in the country. So I think as far as like the culture goes, and then you get into South Texas, and that is that's something that's different to me that I kind of started to experience this year is you're driving down from you get south of San Antonio, and it is high fences on every single side. And
Yeah.
it's, exotic ranches, it's what people talk about when they do like a company hunt or something like that.
Hmm.
It's where you see those guys with those big freak of nature deer. It's almost, going back to the industry, it's a totally different industry than what low fence hunting is up where I'm at, where the county I'm in, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 high fence ranches, and you go south and there
Hmm.
might be 40 in a county. So,
Yeah.
just a very,
And
very
that
different kind of style.
right. And that was so Faradyne, um, my buddy used to work for Faradyne, and he invited me on a media hunt down there, and we flew into San Antonio. And then as we're driving out of San Antonio, we hit a point where it is high fence on all sides, all these different ranches, all these different resorts. And we went and hunted on a ranch that had whitetails and exotics all together. And it was a completely 360 experience for me, like a 180 experience for me. I had no idea what I was getting into, but it was really cool to see, how a certain segment of the quote unquote hunters that space, in that space hunt. Would you say that in that high fence environment, it's more of a corporate type environment where, like, because I went on a media kit and there was probably 20 of us, and the company rented out and bought the animals for us to shoot, and then we sat over feeders, and it had a real corporate feel to it, and not necessarily like a one-on-one. You're hunting with your by yourself with an animal. I had a guide with me at all times, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you're gonna do, like, a public ranch for sure. I mean, my biggest customer, I was like, "Hey, what do you wanna do this year?" Um, and he's like, "I wanna go shoot a big deer in South Texas." So I think people know that that's a thing, and it's kinda what I wouldn't say the default, but, um,
Hmm.
I haven't got to go myself. I guess I'm not cool enough in the work club yet, but, um, I do have some buddies who that's kinda the same thing they do that you said where, "Hey, here's, like, your dollar limit from A to Z between these different animals, shoot anything that you want in between that dollar limit," um,
Yeah.
which is kind of a weird, like, prospectus to me, I guess, when it comes to hunting.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's we're not even worried about animal stuff. We're worried about what the dollar value is. But
Right.
there's good money in it. I mean, there's a reason people are doing it. And I think
Yeah.
too that a lot of the high fit stuff is you're able to learn a lot of. It's a good learning opportunity to learn how deer behave in a controlled environment. Um, because I know there's a ton of research that goes on down there. I know. Well, oh, what was Bronson Strickland? He did his
Yeah.
master's program, I think it was master's or doctorate at A&M Kingsville down in South Texas, and that's where they did
Yeah.
all of their studies and stuff. So, um, it presents some pretty cool opportunities to do stuff like that as well. But yes, I would say it's very very corporate. Even if me and you were to go and say, hey, we're just going to pay this much, they're going to tell you, hey, we're going to put you in a spot with a deer that costs roughly this much. That's
Yeah.
within your price range.
Gotcha. So it's almost like, when I hear that, I feel more like animals are treated as commodity and less like natural resource wildlife. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it's deer farming. I mean, it is what
Deer
it is.
farm.
If yeah, you're selectively breeding. I mean, it's no different than going down to the FFA or 4-H. Like you're selectively breeding your animals to get a certain result. Um, so I wouldn't say that. I mean, and it depends on it. It's very different too. Like there, if you're hunting on a 10,000 acre high fence ranch, it's a very different experience
Mhm.
from hunting on a 1,000 acre, 1,500 um, acre ranch. Just because the deer behave differently. But you know, when it does come time to breed, like you are penning up those breeder bucks that sit in pens all day, and those are the ones who sit there and breed the does all day long. Who are very, I guarantee you those deer are
Yeah.
very healthy. Those breeder bucks.
Yep.
So they get to hang out with
There
does
you
all
go.
day long. Um, so it's it is more, I wouldn't say farming, maybe it is farming. It's more of an
Yeah.
operation versus, your standard, like, "Hey, I'm gonna really hope this dude makes it next year."
Yeah. But there's a demand for it. So there's going to be,
Mhm,
supply and demand, right? There's a demand for
mhm.
it. There's going to be a supply for it. How does that change? Look, so what part of Texas do you live in?
So, I'm in Fort Worth, and
Okay.
which, don't say I'm from Dallas. I will be offended. I will give you weird looks.
Okay.
I tell people that all the time. Little bit of, little brother, big brother syndrome there. And, I
Gotcha.
hunt in I wouldn't say far northwest Texas, but, just south of the Wichita Falls area. So I'm probably about 20-25 minutes from the Red River. Um,
Okay.
so I am, in far North Texas, I guess is what we'll call it.
Gotcha. North Texas, not in the Panhandle.
No, no, not in the Panhandle.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So, how does that section or that area of Texas differ than what we just talked about all the high fence ranches down in South Texas?
It's gonna be like, pretty comparable to like Kansas, honestly. It's all low fence.
Yeah.
Everyone around me who's hunting is on a lease unless they own their land. There's obviously landowners as well. Um, it's I would say it's a pretty good age structure where I'm at.
Hmm.
It's and my neighbors are really good deer managers, probably better than I am, which I'm really lucky to have next to. Um, I would say it's more traditional, like, it's like the, couple guys going out to deer camp either in a trailer or staying in a rental house, um, and, typical if the deer I shot this year is kind of a representation of what it is, just like a clean 120-inch 8 point, it's 5 years old, like, that's pretty standard, um, for what is in the area. Now it will grow, uh, really big deer about once every 4 or 5 years, I will get a deer that pushes into the 160s, if not over. Um, and usually they aren't secret. And the deer do travel up there as well, and I know there's a lot of research around that. But it is fairly open, and that's kind of one of the pros and cons of the specific property I hunt is it is a cattle uh it's a working cattle ranch. Well, I have all the pasture land for
Yeah.
the most part, and everyone around me has all the trees. So I'm having to
Right.
and, the cover and all that, so I'm having to kinda move back and forth and kinda I gotta stay pretty mobile because I'm really just catching them as they travel in between properties, and that can shift quite a bit, but one thing I would say though, and there's all sorts of rumors, is if you look at the deer that I shoot versus the deer that you shoot in East Texas, uh, it looks almost like a different species. Not from an antler standpoint, but just from a body standpoint. I would say, like the deer I shot this year was probably 190, 200 pounds on the hoof, which obviously isn't as big as some of those Midwestern deer, but there's people shooting deer in East Texas that are 140, 150 pounds on the hoof. Mature deer too. And it's
Yeah.
it's almost, and I don't know if it's a
Yeah.
nutrition thing or a genetic thing. There's all sorts of rumors, and I don't even think it's a rumor at this point, but I think in the 80s or 90s they brought in uh, as the deer population was, I guess, struggling into North Texas. They brought in a bunch of bucks and does from Illinois, I believe it was, and then kind of just let
And
them
Michigan.
go.
Michigan used to be a big hub for like capturing deer and relocating them. And
Mhm,
so one guy that used to be on the network was my buddy John with the Oklahoma Outdoors podcast. And he was talking about how throughout different parts of the state of Oklahoma, you will see a noticeable size in body size for those specific deer, and then you can drive 30 miles in a different direction and see a completely different body size, bigger in one area, smaller in the other. And that has everything to do with the natural southern herd versus the herd that they took from to relocate in the
mhm,
Midwest. And so that's pretty interesting to me where if you were lucky enough to have deer relocated in the area that you hunt from the Midwest, you're hunting a bigger bodied deer.
Mhm. And I'm, like, adjacent to it too, so there
Yeah.
I'm not, like, outing anybody here, but there's 2
Mhm.
bow counties in north of DFW that are bow only, and, I mean, it's just, like, casual to pull out 150, 160-inch deer. Like, people
Yeah.
don't even bat their eye at stuff like that. Like, there's a semi-urban I mean, I'll just say it's Collin County. It's mostly developed now, but on the eastern side of the county, there's still some, like, farmland and stuff like that. Every year,
Right.
2 or 3 200-inch deer, just like clockwork. It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy how that happens, and I don't know if it's the bow only, but I know for a fact that that's one of the regions people say that, deer were brought in. So and I'm next to one of those counties, and the guy who hunts next to me, he lives in one of those counties, and, he showed me a buck that, um, his son shot this year off of the property they live at. It's just like 40, 50 acres, and, I mean, it's bigger than anything I've ever seen up where I hunt,
Yeah.
and it's probably
Yeah.
40 miles.
What what does West Texas look like for deer hunting? Or does that kind of does is deer hunting still predominant when you get to, like closer to I guess you would say Mexico and New Mexico?
Yeah, I actually had a buddy who went down to, Alpine, which is kinda down in the Big Bend area,
Yep.
and he went on his first mule deer hunt and shot a heck of a deer, and we kinda talked about that a little bit, and it's almost like it's tradition. It looks like you're in a Western. He sent me a ton of pictures
Mhm.
from it. It almost looks like you're out on the Ponderosa, but yes, deer hunting is gonna be pretty similar, as far as, like, that's what is predominant of what people do out there, but I think it kinda shifts because uh, it's not you get out in the Big Bend area, there are whitetail there. It's not really like whitetail country per se.
Gotcha.
It'd be more like you're in Arizona, New Mexico, even like Sonora, Mexico, where there's quite a bit of
Yeah.
mule deer hunting. I would say mule deer kind of push out that way a little bit more for sure. Um, versus, whitetail. And there'll still be whitetail, but you get probably if you were to take a line from Big Spring, Texas, and go straight up and down, that's probably where anything west of there is when you get into mule deer country, and that's a pretty rough estimation, but, there'll be free range elk. Now, elk are not they're not a listed species, um, for
Okay.
Texas Parks and Wildlife. Even there are natural elk that are part of, I guess, the quote unquote herd, but they got delisted in the '90s, I believe, so you can shoot an elk as an exotic any time of the year. Which I kinda find
Oh,
interesting. I
really?
wish that wasn't. Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to have a tag or anything. It is I guess the herd wasn't big enough, they completely delisted them.
Okay. So that
Yeah.
blows my mind. And so an elk now is bucketed with the Neil guy and the Aoudad in certain
Mhm.
spots. Are those animals that just escaped, or were those animals like brought into areas to for a specific reason?
I would say for Aoudad, for sure. Aoudad were brought in to hunt, and there's quite a bit of controversy on that because 'cause they've been kinda hard on the big sheep population, or excuse me,
Yep.
bighorn sheep population. But the elk, definitely there's some have escaped. There's some areas that they have reintroduced them. Like, I know down in Austin, there's, like, kind of a ranch that they've kinda brought them back in, and I would say it's a little bit of both. There definitely is a natural elk herd coming out of New Mexico that will travel down, into, West Texas and kinda down by Big Bend. Same thing with up in the Panhandle in West Texas. It's you look at up in the Panhandle where like, far, far north, and you get into the Panhandle of Oklahoma where that meets. I mean, you're
Yep.
50, 60 miles from Colorado, and that is nothing for
Yeah.
mule deer or elk to travel, depending on the time of year. So it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit of both, especially with those kind of traditional Western animals, because obviously they're much more transient uh than a whitetail is.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the rut. Is the rut for whitetail standard across the entire state?
No, it is totally different anywhere you go.
Okay.
It where I'm at in North Texas, it's kind of a traditional uh, whitetail rut, if you will. Starts in early November, kind of moves into middle of November and tapers down in December. We'll kind of get that last dying breath in early December with fawns that haven't hit a certain weight limit or nose get
Yep.
bred, but that's when it's kind of done. You go down to South Texas, I mean, they're in the middle now. It's probably a little late now, but they're rutting in December into early January. Uh, East
Yeah.
Texas, kind of similar, kind of earlier. I would say they were close to me, maybe a little bit earlier. But then you get in like the coast, like down towards Louisiana, Beaumont. That's when you get in those weird like February ruts, July ruts. I don't even know. There's all you
Hmm.
get close to bodies of like any like I think it's anywhere in the country. You get close to like the ocean, and the deer ruts get really really weird. Um,
Yeah.
it could be whenever, and I don't know enough research about certain parts of the state, but and I would say West Texas
Yeah.
too, pretty similar,
Yeah.
as far as, when the rut is, but, you look at North Texas versus South Texas, very different.
Yeah. Okay, so you've mentioned in this in conversation the difference in the deer herd, the difference in the rut timing, the difference in the terrain that they live in, the body sizes, the quantity of deer throughout the estate, high fence, low fence. So there's all these different variables throughout the state that the Department of Natural Resources or the Texas Wildlife what do they call themselves?
Uh,
The Texas
Texas Parks
DNR?
and Wildlife.
Yeah,
It's
Parks and
yeah.
Wildlife.
Mhm,
Yeah, has to try and manage.
mhm.
Do they do they blanket statement everything across the entire state like a state like Iowa and Illinois does, or do they have different zones with different rules and regulations for residents even too?
So it's dude, you gotta, like, do your research even if you go hunt in a different county. It's all
Yeah.
county dependent.
Okay.
Like the counties I'm in, it's a what's called a one buck county. And I think that's really more based on like population relative to like what perceived deer population is more than anything.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm an hour and 30 minutes from Fort Worth, so obviously DFW is huge. So it's probably
Hmm.
there's a lot of people that hunt up there. Um, 13-inch rule is a thing for sure. Some counties you can shoot a buck that, it doesn't matter. Other counties it has to be wider than 13 inches. Um, and I think that was more of an age, and it's been very effective, but that was an age structure thing in certain areas that have a higher population of hunters for sure. There's
Yeah.
another thing called the MLDP program, which every high fence ranch you look at or ever hunt at is a part of. There's some larger low fence ranches as well, where Texas Parks and Wild, like you can enroll, and Texas Parks and Wildlife will come out and they'll do a survey of your ranch, and you'll say you have this many
Hmm.
bucks, this many does. Here are your tags. Um, and I think their seasons, so the rifle seasons, I think start in October, but they can still shoot deer all the way into February.
Yeah.
Just from like a management perspective, and I know that's kind of like, and they're getting a little stricter. Not, I wouldn't say stricter about it, but there's been some instances of CWD at these high fence ranches,
Hmm.
and I know they're pushing people like, "Hey, shoot your deer." Like we,
Yeah.
we don't need an overpopulation, and it's not really some of the bigger ones, but the smaller ones where you get an over. I mean, I've been on 200-acre ranches, not to hunt, but it's like, dude, there's so many different kinds of ruminants on there between exotics and whitetails, and I'm like, man, that you're just asking for trouble. Um,
Oh, you're
this-
talking about the species intertwining with each other?
well, just from like a disease spreading perspective, because you got 4 or 5 feed
Oh,
stations.
yeah.
And it's,
Yep.
if you get a
Yep.
drought year and it's things can get weird fast, if you were, and say there's like a cut in the fence, which happens all the time, deer gets out, and I think that's what people are really afraid of. That hasn't happened yet. They've isolated those couple incidences on those high fence ranches with CWD, but um, that's kind of I wouldn't say it's a hot button topic, but um,
Yeah.
it's not really been a thing down here, and I know obviously where you are, it's a much more prevalent thing, which, I know there's a million different opinions on what people think about that, and uh,
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about like the the baiting game, all right, well, the feeding
Okay.
or whatever term you wanna talk about in Texas. Um, it's not everywhere, but it's everywhere. Do if
Yeah,
that makes
it's
sense,
the
right?
the
It
best way I put it is everyone's baiting, so nobody's baiting.
yeah,
So it's you
yeah,
don't
and
have an
explain that to
advantage.
us.
So e every pretty much every private piece of property in Texas, someone is putting out some kind of bait, usually corn, in
Yep,
some kind of, facet, whether it's just dumping it on the ground, whether it's
mhm,
a spin cast feeder, which is your traditional, has a timer, spins at, 8 in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There's free flowing
mhm,
feeders where they can feed at any time. Dude, I've even seen, and this is where I start to get a little, fair chase. I've even seen feeders that you can like close at night, so those deer don't like get in the habit of feeding at night. And I'm like, I
mhm,
don't know how I feel about all that. It feels a little too manipulative for me. Um,
yeah,
but it is definitely a strategy. And the thing is too is especially mentioning the property I hunt earlier, kind of being a just a one big giant transition ranch where deer go back and forth. Um, if I didn't bait, I just won't see deer. Just
yeah,
straight up. Like I do not have the I have much worse property than the people around me. I have a big piece of
yeah,
property, but it's I don't have hardly any cover at all. So if I'm trying to get deer out of the cover onto my place, like I am going to need um, some sort of attractant to get there. Because to bring into a different kind of point there too is it's I might be done rut hunting after this year, um, because the way the property sets up, I just have so much better luck when those deer want to come to food versus does, because the doe
mhm,
bedding is just not on me. Um, and
yeah,
so it's if unless I happen to catch a random buck walking under the tree I am in through X amount of acres, it's a crapshoot almost. So um,
yeah,
I think it's something that there's a lot of controversy around it. Obviously, I wouldn't say controversy, but from traditional like deer hunting media, where it's like, oh, they shot that deer for
yeah,
bait, and you know how it started back, years ago when I was a kid watching like OLN or something like that, and you got the guys shooting the big buck in Tennessee or whatever, and it's like, oh, he shot it, and then they don't show the 1,500 pounds of corn that's sitting behind the deer
the
stand that
log.
never gets on camera. Yeah, yeah, no one ever shows it. It's like the dirty secret,
Right,
but I really think it's not any kind of, like, inherent advantage, because it's just kind of the natural food, uh, movement that you would see, whether it's on a food plot or something like that.
yeah. What's the what is the reason for all of the baiting? Is it because people just wanted to bait, or is it because the natural environment did not hold enough food for the desired amount of deer that people want to see? So baiting is or feeding is required to hold a larger population of animals.
I mean, I think it's like any other ruminant that, cows or horses or anything like that. It depends on where you're at. Like if you're like
Mhm.
where I'm at, I don't need to feed deer. I am baiting. Like I am trying to get
Yeah.
deer in. Now if you're like down in South Texas, West Texas, um, there I could definitely see some instances where if you were not consistently feeding deer, how the holding uh capacity of the property you're on might not be able to hold the deer that you're sustaining via feed. For sure could see that as well.
Yeah.
And it comes state to state, and then that brings up a greater question. It's like, then should you have that many deer on your property? Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, there are definitely parts of the state where if they did not feed that many deer, they would see a drop off in deer health, deer quality, if not even population as well. But um, it just kinda depends. Where I'm at, there's plenty of natural forage. We have a lot of post oak trees that drop a billion acorns, and so there's not a huge push to, feed deer on
Right.
my end from a health perspective. It's just me trying to attract deer from point A and get them to point B.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. What's the kinda like with that said, are there environments where there would be no deer living if it wasn't for feeding of deer and having, let's say, even like uh, water sources available through cattle tanks or tanks
I would say there'd still be deer. I just don't think there'd be quite the, you know, as
numbers?
many. But then it's
Yeah.
hard to say too because all like, going back to the South Texas thing, a lot of those ranches are high fence now. So it's like
Hmm.
who's to say what the actual carrying capacity is because that ranch has been high fence for the last, 60 years.
You're
And so
right.
it's hard to say what
Right.
the natural deer would do there. And maybe that's why they high fence it because they're like this, naturally this landscape sucks. So we're gonna have to do a lot of work
Yeah.
uh to make deer, be able to survive here and have plenty of you know, calories per day to be able to sustain antler health and growth and all that.
Breeding and yeah, yeah, absolutely. All right, so this is cool. All right, because Connor Little here, he is getting ready to drop a podcast on the Sportsman's Empire podcast network. That hosts the Nine Finger Chronicles, that hosts the Western Rookie podcast, and a whole bunch of other podcasts. And what is the name of your podcast?
It is deep in the hunt of Texas. So
I like
I,
that
I'm not. I
play
don't
on
know if I'm
words,
gonna.
my friend.
I don't know if I'm gonna like come up with like a little theme song. I don't know. You set the precedent that we need to sing on our podcasts. So I might
Okay.
like come up with a deep in the hunt of Texas, parody here. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So this is cool. This is the first time on the network we've ever had a podcast dedicated to the state of Texas. I personally feel it's a necessity. I'm really looking forward to it. Talk to us a little bit about what you plan on covering for as far as topics about deep in the hunt of Texas.
Mm. So, I mean, we're gonna hit pretty much everything. There's so much to talk about. Obviously, deer hunting is probably the gonna be the number one topic, but coastal fishing is huge. That's something I've gotten into in the last year. Inland fishing also as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's Texas is a big bass state. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
bass competitions around here as well. Duck hunting. That's kind of how I cut my teeth in hunting. That's there's always something to talk about duck hunting. There's us duck hunters are a bunch of prima donnas. I mean, there's some sort of drama about something all the time. It's not hard to find some duck hunting content to get
Right.
riled up about. Um, we're going to talk about hog hunting. One thing that I'm making an effort to get in personally this year is I really want to get into varmint hunting. We, on my place specifically, I have had a deep, deep decline on the turkey population. And so I am going to get after the coyotes, the possums, the raccoons hard this year, and try and kind
Awesome.
of rehabilitate that as well. I really want to get into calling coyotes as well. I have some buddies who are really, really good at it. I am not. Um, so we're gonna hit all the high notes. Another thing I want to do too is just because of um, the history of Texas is so unique. I kind of want to do some deep dives into some actual figures uh, within hunting, good or bad. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's like any other story. There's villains and there's good guys. There's guys like Wyman Miser who started off coyote hunting, got into photography, and now he's the only person to ever be named the official photographer of Texas. From West Texas, there's Charles Beatty, who's like the legendary poacher, or I guess say infamous poacher. And he's done a whole social media circuit where he lived on the King Ranch for like 40, 50 days at a time, like living in like outlaw hideouts um and poaching deer. And not that like I condone any of that, but it's the same kind of stuff where people want to hear Jesse James story.
Right.
Or and it's those outlaw stories definitely have a little appeal to people want to hear. So I want to do that and just across really the state, really, and maybe get into some history as well. uh Dating back to even like the Comanches and how they developed that kind of stuff. I'm kind of a history nerd, so I think we might
Yeah.
do some bonus podcasts as well where we kind of dive into some of the history, whether it's like the book, um, the Empire of the Summer Moon, which is just basically about settling Texas and the Texas Rangers and the Comanches and all that kind of stuff. So really get
Yeah.
into like how hunting in Texas became what it is today. Um,
Yeah.
because I don't know if I'm a good enough deer hunter like you to talk deer hunting strategy all day, and I don't think that's necessarily the culture in Texas
Right.
either, where it's it's very much a group thing, and the hang is what I like to call it. It's a part of it. Like, I want to have a good time.
Hmm.
And
Right.
the first thing I really want from this podcast is I want people to be entertained. We're going to talk deer hunting and we're
Right.
going to get in the weeds for sure, but I want people to be able to flip this on their way to work, on their way home, and like look forward and know that, we're going to say stupid stuff like, if you're not horny, you're healthy. I don't know, just something like that, or we're gonna hear some kind of sing it, something like that.
Yeah.
That's
You're
my
going to
number
cover
one
all the
thing here.
bases.
All of
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's cool, man. I, as you're starting to talk about this and all of the high fences and all of the clubs and things like that, and how that's the culture of Texas, like the pay to play aspect of it. One, I don't know, you can call it a task for you would be from a history standpoint that I would love to listen to is when did Texas become that? Or when did it
Mm.
start to become that? Has it always been a high fence or a pay to play type state like that? I would love to know. And the reason for that is, and then we can look at trends, right? We can say to
Mm.
ourselves, all right, what state in the next handful of years is going down that road where it's going to be all leases and maybe even turn to high fence or it's heading down that path, the pay to play path. And I really like history because usually what happens is it tells us the future as well.
Mhm.
So that definitely be interesting. So, dude, Connor, welcome to the Sportsman's Empire. I'm really excited to start working on getting all your stuff up and running, and I'm looking forward for the podcast to launch. We're gonna have a soft launch. This week, we're going to get some of your content up and running, but then at the same time, we're gonna have a big explosion of an announcement in a couple weeks where we're going to do a lot more to get but this is the soft launch. So if you live in Texas or you hunt in Texas, I want this to be your number one podcast for Texas. So Connor, man, thank you very much for taking time out of your day today to do this.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled. I'm so pumped for this.
All right. Hey, guys, before I say goodbye, do me a huge favor. Go to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you download the Nine Finger Chronicles podcast. Give it a 5-star review. Let everybody know that you enjoy this podcast. It is not only entertaining, but educational as well. And then on the flip side, I need all of you guys to go to YouTube and subscribe to the Nine Finger Chronicles YouTube channel. I would really appreciate that. So, good vibes, everybody. Wear your safety harness if you're still hunting. Be nice to each other, right? Kind, empathy, love, support, that kind of stuff. Good vibes, everybody. And we will talk to you next time.